Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your dreaded DM, DBJ, and thank you for joining me on this today, Future Friday, where we come to the end of our week-long discussion on particular topics. Now, you will notice that if you are a long-term viewer and or participant of the show, that the first 4 days of this week we were talking about pantheons, especially in our tabletop RPG community, which of course this channel is dedicated to. And of course, we could have talked about in science fiction, especially pertaining to transhumanist science fiction, about like gods and mythology and such. But I think it's more appropriate that we talk about AI overlords and try to go a little bit beyond the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to overlords. The most notorious, shall I say, godlike being would be Skynet from the Terminator movie series. But in science fiction, and especially transhumanist science fiction, there is this philosophy or belief that humanity and the blending of technology will get to the point where it's very difficult to understand the line between one and the other. And where does AI fit into that, especially when AI has such control over our wants, our needs, our desires, and stuff? So I thought we would talk about it today, and so let's jump on in. All right, so as I mentioned, sorry, not done with my preamble. The show is broadcast over three networks. We have our own Discord server. You can join that, and over to the left, slide down to the boiler room. That's where all the cool kids get to hang out and listen in on the audio there. And the show is also broadcast on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are a participant of the show live, you can pop in a comment or chat or have a discussion or just be snarky or whatever. Just be aware that maybe, just maybe, your comment might be a highlight of the show if I can get to your comment in that amount of time. Anyway, thank you very much for letting me preamble a little bit here. All right, so let's get into our AI overlord discussion. Now, of course, the most common AI overlord idea, and there is a little bit of an asterisk next to it, is this idea that an AI is by factors of of much more than we can measure, is far more intelligent than us, has its grips in the majority of technology in and around your world, and takes over and just completely dominates. It is absolutely it's absolutely used in the Terminator series. It's used in the Matrix series, and I guarantee you there's too many that I'm not mentioning where AIs have taken over humanity and they control everything. Yeah, the cameras is yeah, is that laughing my ass off? Yeah, hell's yes. How about an AI that uses genetic evaluation to imprison people who are likely to be criminals? And I thought we would get into some of the nuances of what we may assume AI may do. For example, I'm sure Dead Man or Tesla Ranger, who are here all the time, will attest to the paperclip philosophy, in the sense that there's this fear of AI not necessarily being good or bad, but being indifferent to our needs because it is so hyper focused on its capabilities that it begins to ignore the humanity that it is affecting, right? And it's the paperclip optimization idea, where an AI might be so focused on its chosen goal, like making paper clips, that it causes world wars and destroys humanity and our very nature and the way of life in the planet itself in an effort to dismantle the solar system to keep making paper clips, using technology and nanotech and predictive procedures and things. But I think we tend to ignore the fact that, like, more likely than not, maybe AI is designed by us because we want a particular outcome, and that outcome may be something that we desire. And so, one concept of having an AI overlord is that the community itself wanted this AI overlord to begin with, and it may not have been something that was flipping the switch, but happened over time. We already have AI that are doing things for us when it comes to, say, search engine optimization, right? Anytime you've gone on to your favorite online purchasing service like Amazon and others, and if there's a toggle or a banner or some kind of message that says, "Hey, you might be interested in this," and it gives you things that you're interested in, it's because it's learning from you. And by the very nature of it learning from you, it's also denying you the things that you might otherwise learn from, because it's only giving you the things you want. Same thing when looking for, like, news articles or politics or religion or hell, knitting, or the brand new sneakers or snarky T-shirts with logos on them or messages on them. It's the same kind of thing, right? The AI starts to learn what you want. Now, Dead Man put in the link to the what's known as the instrumental convergence. Instrumental convergence is the hypothetical tendency for most sufficiently intelligent agents, meaning AI computers, to pursue potentially unbounded instrumental goals such as self-preservation and resource acquisition, provided that their ultimate goals are themselves unbounded. So the paperclip optimization part of that is this idea that, oh, I need to maximize making paper clips. I need to engage in, I don't know, a nuclear war against my enemies who might stop me from making more paper clips. Right? There's no moral judgment in it. There's a the fear is that AI will not understand that a automated nuclear war or chemical war or something with your enemy is taking it a little bit too far when making paper clips, or that the world doesn't need that many paper clips. Sure, you're a paperclip optimizer, but maybe you might want to stop for 50 years because you've made 50 million tons of paper clips, and they're starting to spill outside of the Grand Canyon because you needed a place to put all the paper clips, right? It's can AI, or the fear is that AI will not be able to understand its impact on its goal. Now, what does that have to do with our discussion before, earlier in the week? Is we talked about gods and pantheons and mythology, and how the gods themselves are so hyper focused on their one domain of control, whether it's Aphrodite and beauty, or Zeus and storms and wanting to, put his tallywhacker in anything with a soft hole. It's like it's the Lord of the death and the underworld, being hyper focused on their particular domains, that they do not see the ramifications of what's going on around them. So that's one type of AI. Tesla Ranger also puts in, suppose we have an AI whose only goal is to make as many paper clips as possible. And this is a quote concerning the paperclip optimization hypothetical problem. The AI will realize quickly that it would be much better if there were no humans, because humans might decide to switch it off. Because if humans do so, there would be fewer paper clips. Also, human bodies contain a lot of atoms that could be made into paper clips. The future that the AI would be trying to gear towards would be one in which there were a lot of paper clips but no humans. So the fear of course, ultimately, no matter what desire the AI has, the fear for humanity is that the AI will decide that humanity is is itself inefficient or unusable, and that's where you get the AI warfare, the AI overlords idea. And one, I'll say that in terms of gamifying, like the paperclip optimizer, is that maybe in a particular mission or a particular habitat or even another world in another system, someone may have released an AI that doesn't have the that does not contain the other necessary programming to be an optimizer that includes humanity within that process, right? Because a true paperclip optimizer we would want would, give people a couple of ounces of paper clips every time we needed those paper clips, right? It would destroy the world. It would just somehow send us a small pack of paper clips, understanding that we have run out of a few of them, but cleans the air as well and makes traffic uh, more efficient so that we can get to and from the locations we want, and gives us entertainment that and makes the world a better place as we smile, also knowing that we have paper clips in our breast pocket, right? So it's including us within the programming that's the important thing. And when it comes to an AI overlord, a benevolent AI overlord would take not only take that into account, but enhance our lives to that point. And I really want to circle this back, segue back to Cameron's point about imprisoning people who are likely to be criminals, and an AI that has the ability to do that. The paperclip maximizer thought experiment described by Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003, and it illustrates the existential risk of an artificial intelligence. Now, one thing that I think sometimes we today confuse is that AI will be designed by us, and as long as we take the closer we develop ourselves alongside AI, the greater chance I think that, other than going to war with an AI that considers us to be just a bunch of liquidy, fragile meat bags, um, is that AI might want us to be around because, hey, Andrews, thank you very much for coming on back in here for this Future Friday. The We may blend with AI or want AI to start taking over more and more of the things that we do. We already see that today, right? And the philosophy, the story, the meta story in the movie series, all the Terminator shows and movies and things, has been that, hey, we turned on Skynet to educate our children and control traffic and help us predict the weather and all those kind of things, air traffic control. And then of course Skynet takes over, and hilarity ensues, right? And but it's possible that an AI might not be something that we fear. An AI overlord may be something that we have designed to the point that is so maximized that we no longer need to make those decisions for ourselves. In other words, we've designed it so that it makes the decision for us. Maybe there's an AI system in a particular region of the gaming world, meaning like a particular nation, habitat, moon, asteroid, other planet, where much like traffic control, security, those kind of things, education, maybe it's under control. And while from our outside point of view, we're like, the AI's got you guys under control, the people there might be thinking, yes, because we want it that way. And that's where we get into things rather hard to imagine, but scary, that an AI might have be able to gather enough information to almost predict the future, right? Yeah, Deadman. Like Deadman says, like the Prometheans in Eclipse phase. Yeah, it may be. For example, some would claim that there are something used today is police and military using predictive technology through lots of data gathered previously in the past to predict when crimes will be committed in the future, right? So a particular habitat might have a security system that can predict when people will commit crimes. And like Cameron said, okay, that might not seem like a bad idea, right? Well, we have a computer system. It has gathered every single detail about every crime ever committed in the past, you know, to infinity, and collecting all information even till today. Hey, let's go send security teams out to particular locations in our million plus habitat spinning, spindle spinning above Mars or something. And that doesn't seem like a bad idea. It Cameron's like, oh no, that sounds terrible to me. Correct. But the people there who see increased security may look around and go, oh, all right, well, hey, the AI are doing their job. They sent security out here just because it heard chatter online, it saw certain items being purchased, it could sense the heat temperature of human beings because they're all hey, everyone has a biomonitor inside of them, much like the today the Fitbits that people wear, where it detects your adrenaline or something, and it knows the difference between people jogging and exercising out in the park and anxiety going up, right? Cameron brought up the fact that genetic testing, maybe people have a it makes a correlation between a genetic type and criminality. Okay. Maybe it has information on psychological well-being. We know that today astronauts are psychologically and members of our specially trained, special forces, Navy SEALs and Delta and things like that. A lot of them are monitored for psychological reasons. And maybe the people are used to being analyzed psychologically. Maybe they're asked questions, or they are, there's AI that's able to predict, not only your buying habits, but when your heart rate goes up and down. And so now it's predicting crime. And then how far away does that go to becoming pre-crime, where you start getting arrested before you commit a crime because all the evidence points to you about to commit that crime, a la Minority Report without the psychics, right? And much like a police patrol pulling you over and saying, and with the presumption of criminality, a habitat might stop your player characters or even innocent people from going about their business because we need to question you on what you're doing. Yeah, Tesla always pulling in the as well, always pulling the things from TV tropes. Okay, um, GURPS, the role playing game, generic universal role playing system. GURPS Reign of Steel was a GURPS setting book released in '97 and since republished in electronic form, um, offering one of the bleakest depictions probably of the future. And the image on the front, although not Terminator, is the world of the future of Terminator and Skynet, right? A human being probably down to their last couple of last bit of ammo, hiding around the corner from a giant robot about to turn the corner to apprehend humanity, and take them and transform them. Um, yeah, bleakest depictions of the robot war scenario yet witnessed. Yeah, where they take over. Now, mind you, there is zero wrong with going with the trope of AI good, you know, meat bags bad, take over. Now the end result of that, as some have may postulated, that the world of Skynet is a uh, is the in the same world as the Matrix, right? Like you could make a straight line if you wanted to draw that straight line, that all the Terminator stuff, including Skynet, is really just the Matrix movies taken a little bit into the future, where they've apprehended and captured all of humanity. Why are they apprehending humans instead of killing them? Because they need to, plug them into a system as a battery, although that doesn't really make much sense. Or plugging them in because, well, it's the best way to, much like in the iRobot series as well, the best way to protect humans is to turn them into cattle, right? Stick a plug in the back of their head, put them in a chamber. They're perfectly safe there, and we can give them a VR world for them to live in, and maybe that's the best thing for them. Also, there as an AI overlord, the Borg in Star Trek is an idea of an AI overlord that on the outset it's like hell no. Then you get plugged into the hive mind, and you're like, actually, this doesn't feel too bad. I kind of like it. I kind of like it. It that might be the outcome, and the player characters running, of course, running their asses off to get away from such an overlord, might find themselves, one or more of the PCs might actually be part of an AI system that is like that. And that's where I think with the AI overlord problem in like the transhuman games such as Eclipse Phase, Altered Carbon, and others out there, that you could make them player characters. And maybe a player character comes from a region in which an AI actually has such control over their capabilities that they send them out almost like a hive mind as the tendrils of the AI itself, as agents of the AI. And that's where they receive a lot of their information and their capabilities, things like that. Huh. Oh, okay. Um, I have no mouth and I must scream. What? I don't know if I would like to have that on a t-shirt, but it sounds cool. 5 people are tortured for eternity by a petty, godlike AI. Hate. Let me come to tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you, hate, hate. AM, the Allied Master Computer, then later called Adaptive Manipulator, and still later Aggressive Menace. The AM. Yeah, one of the things that I would would fear about AI overlords is this idea that, well, like our global search engines, AI would learn from us because of the information that we deposit in it. Can you imagine what AI would be like after it learns everything from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff? All that poison and hate and a millennium of information about the horrible things we do and say and want to do to each other, writ large, and an AI has to learn from that. No, it would be no question why an AI would have hate in its heart for humanity itself and want to wipe us out, because the AI might be thinking, well, you know what? Here, you guys are predicting that you're going to wipe each other out anyway. Here, let me help you out. I'm just trying to be friendly, right? So, yeah, I mean, all the wars, all of the infighting, all of the backstabbing and torturous things that, especially if it doesn't understand the difference between dreams and desire and sarcasm and metaphor. you know a person that writes on their Facebook wall that, man, I can't stand my boss, I hope they die. Right? It's like the AI is like, oh, I can get that done for you, hold on for a minute. That kind of thing. Yeah. Yep. I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Tay, Microsoft's AI chatbot, gets a crash course in racism from Twitter. Yeah. Attempt to engage millennials with artificial intelligence backfires hours after launch with Tay tweets account citing Hitler and supporting Donald Trump. Yeah. it's an AI system that very quickly, by learning from human interaction and the way we talk to each other, the AI may not understand the difference between rhetoric or those kind of things. The backwards idea that I don't want I don't want to be lumped in with a group. I want to be judged as an individual, and using using that, and just and in the same time, stereotyping the other side, whatever that other side is, right? It's tribalism writ large, and an AI that learns tribalism would be pretty damn dangerous. Yeah, Twitter taught Microsoft's AI chatbot to be a racist asshole in less than a day. Yeah, because uh, lowest common denominator, and let's be honest, right? That is based on AIs can learn from data, but of course that data is not necessarily accurate because it's curated by a particular mindset. Okay, much like businesses understand that when we interact with businesses, it's usually like it's like nine, I hate that business because F them, because I hated that interaction, versus one that's like, oh, I think that was great. Right? People don't go out of their way to put all the nice things that happen in their day on their social media. Usually they put they're motivated emotionally and energetically to for discourse. And when you're happy, you're normally at peace. When you're pissed off, there's adrenaline pumping through you. So while someone could claim, oh, well, I don't know, let's make an AI and plug it into the data we have around the world, that data isn't necessarily accurate. It's actually curated by us prior to the data being downloaded into it. Um, i.e., I'm pissed off today. I'm going to dump 25 comments into it because I'm pissed off, rather than, hey, I'm really happy and peaceful. I'm going to dump 87 peaceful comments. No, most of the time people are like, I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to sit in the sun. I want to play with my nephews. I'm going to go have a great meal. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I don't got time to post crap online about my happiness. Not that people don't do it, but the ratio is off. Now, a way to get around that in an AI overlord might be to, especially in transhumanists, if people have backup brains, right? If they have a cortical stack, if they have an implant that sees and hears and, in a sense, digitally downloads the very thoughts of every human, and then is able to analyze that information, mind you, without necessarily riding in the back of the brains of every human, but basically taking that information without turning humans into robots. It's just acquiring things around them. So if people are walking around and they go to the park and they look up at the sky, and the AI can sense like, oh man, the sun feels really good. I'm enjoying myself, even if just for 30 seconds before I go into the boardroom. And now I've got to go into the office and deal with my terrible boss. Maybe the AI can go, oh, this person would rather be outside walking a dog. Let's see if we can figure out a way to have people walk dogs more often. Right? Um, uh, Captain Redbird, I hope I'm doing that correctly, says AI can only follow algorithms. One realizes humans are flawed in that they can produce random thoughts. Seeing this as an edge on competing AI, one decides to uh, cultivate its human population, basically cutting them down. Well, we say that now, but there's nothing preventing us from creating algorithms that take randomness into account. And that could be the conflict, because we're talking about tabletop RPGs. The conflict might be, how random does the AI system that controls everything take into account the randomness of humanity? Because we're assuming that AI and humanity are separated, as opposed to an AI system's already programmed to optimize our lives. So, for example, something doesn't necessarily need to be evil to optimize our lives. We just program it to, hey, listen, give us the best education, the best opportunities. It's the Wall-E version of an AI, right? Right. If you guys ever seen Wall-E, the computer system was put everybody in the floaty chairs and gave them big gulps of lots of pop and food and basically made everybody sit back and as big bloaty obese orbs floating around uh, watching movies and things, right? And then the AI was like, oh, we'll just clean up all your trash and I don't know, I guess put a tube up your rectum to clean that out too. No need to go to the bath. No need to get up to go to the bathroom. We'll handle that for you as well. Hey, sir, would you like my robot to wipe you? Yes, I would. Right? Yeah. Right. And well, Tesla puts in, it all starts with talk of genocide, right? Yeah, well, yeah, like Captain Redbird says, well, if an AI uses an algorithm and it operates on what you're talking about, like the randomization of human thought, the AI might be thinking, how can we stop humans from having random thoughts? Because it's throwing off my algorithm, the bidet bot, squirt, squirt. Ah. But I mean, as hilarious as that sounds, would there be people willing to have the AI that does everything for them? I mean, in present day more and more. What comes up? What is the conversation that comes up? Universal basic income, because machine intelligence might get so good that it will put more people out of work than more people can find work based on the population. And here comes the genocide thing again. There's not enough jobs for people to work. We could either give them all of their needs, or we could maybe do the Thanosian thing, get enough soul gem, get enough gems of power, and maybe we should cut the population in half. Now, I suppose, yeah. Oh, I love that series. Tesla says yes. They took. Just look at how the slaves were treated as tools in the Spartacus TV series. I don't think you meant the word tools. I think you were being nice. But yes, if for those of you who have not seen the Spartacus TV series, please Google it, look it up. Um, shall we say the slaves there were used in all manner of fashion, including in the bedroom for various needs. Kind of very salacious and titillating on purpose. Very good show. Dead Man says that, and the follow up to the Tay, which is Tay was a Microsoft AI, is Zoe. Zoe was an artificial intelligence English language chatbot developed by Microsoft. It was a successor to the chatbot Tay, which was shut down in 2016 after it made racist and genocidal tweets. Zoe was an English version of Microsoft's other successful chatbot. I can't pronounce it. Xiaosi. I pronounce it's a Chinese translated word or name, so I with no context can't pronounce it. But yeah, if you and the thing is that unfortunately for us humans, an AI that learns from humanity might not understand, say, modern context versus a ancient context. Like, for example, we like to measure things by decades, like 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. If it learns from those decades and those eras from most of us around the world, it and combines all that today, there's a lot of hate that might have disappeared, and the AI is like, no, we need to bring the hate back. You guys missed that. You guys were happy when you had hate in your hearts. Let's turn the volume up to 11. Yep. Cameron's like, oh great. When the robots start going to comedy clubs, it looks like random comedy's coming back. The humans can't leave the comedy club, and it's like it's going, no respect here, no respect. Take my wife, please. uh, Hours upon hours, days upon days of comedy club routines, trying to keep us happy. Parks filled with robot mimes and like robots that come into your into your bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to tickle you because it needs you to be happy. Oh no. Anyway, um, I think one other thing might be we're assuming that there's going to be we like to extrapolate that there will be one AI system, but there may be plenty of AI systems. Yeah, dead man, I'm not going to do that. Maybe it's like giving me the pronunciations. I'm like, why? It's going on 3 years. At what point do you think that I will actually find something, pronounce it correctly in a proper context? You know, I don't do that. And by the way, as an armchair transhumanist and futurist, the armchair part is the important thing. Now, the we are assuming there will be one AI, but what if there are multiple AI, like two or five? Or what if there's one AI per person, per individual, per sentient creature or being that each has an AI trying to optimize the lives of each individual themselves, right? That's where we get into transhumanists. Like, what we're assuming there's going to be one major AI, but listen, if your personal AI, we will then devolve into we could then devolve into um, I'm important, all everything else is the other, which is unimportant. And then the AI is then maximizing your life based on its capabilities so that you are the dominant person in this world. An example would be, and this is already in the role playing games where you what they in Eclipse phase they call it a muse. I believe in Altered Carbon they're called coils, or maybe that's just the way to link into the like the internet. But whatever the case may be, an AI system that rides inside of you might you could give it an instruction and go, listen, I need a hotel room, I need some kind of transportation, and make a couple of phone calls or send some messages. Phone calls, jeez, send some messages to some contacts so that everything's ready when I get there. Now the AI might go, oh, my personage that I'm working for needs some kind of transportation. I'm going to steal it from, I don't know, the pregnant lady, right? Like, I don't care about these other people. I'm just going to arrange to make sure that there is some kind of like automated automobile waiting for this person when they get off of the interstellar transport, so that they're there. But the AI might not care where they got the car from, or the AI might not care that they are disrupting traffic, trying to take over traffic lights when their human personage is trying to go through traffic. You know, there could be major hiccups when, let's say, someone is trying to have a dinner party and they are trying to entertain guests, and some of those guests can't make it. Who's to say that their personal AI doesn't cause, oh, I don't know, a building collapse or fire, or let's start a little small micro war to prevent travel from those dinner guests leaving, so now they have no excuse but to arrive at the dinner party. And then everybody else has an AI trying to do the same thing, you know, trying to hack your Instagram feed because they want their pictures to look better. They're trying to disrupt all news sources to get your face plastered in Times Square, New York, because the AI knows you took these great pictures of your cat, and your cat pictures should be in Times Square, New York, where everyone gets to see them. Because hey, listen, everybody needs to get to see these cat pictures. I don't care what that you're sitting there waiting for. I don't know, the ball to drop on New Year's Eve, right? Like, private personal AI might be just as dangerous as anything else. Now, one of the things in terms of tabletop role playing games that might be a little bit hard to handle, much like divine beings is a very difficult thing to role play, is something smarter than ourselves, right? And that might involve a little bit of gaminess on the game master side in terms of striking the right balance that when the players come up with an idea, most of them espionage missions. For example, like in Eclipse phase, the three defaults are being a firewall agent, which is espionage, being a criminal, which has a lot of breaking and entering, espionage, that kind of thing, or being an explorer, an exoplanet explorer, which in and of itself, again, does involve things like stealth and disguise and that kind of thing, survival even. And finding the balance between claiming that, for example, the players come up with an idea to hack a computer system, and the AI is like, well, I knew you would try to hack the computer system. I just opened up a back door to the computer system like a honeypot to lead you in to convince you that you were successful, but really you weren't, right? It might be a little bit of a gotcha, and finding the right razor thin line between an AI predicting what humanity will do before it does it, and allowing the player characters to be surprised at how powerful the AI is going to be daunting, because it could very easily, you could very easily have a table flip moment when the PCs are like, oh, every time we try to come up with something, you're always saying the AI already figured it out. Every time we go somewhere, AI is already there. Security is already there. It already knows our identity. It already figures everything out. This game sucks. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be a gotcha game master. But on the other hand, you don't want Skynet to be absolutely stupid either. Because then it would make no sense. It's like, wait a minute, tell me again how this is a post-apocalyptic world, but we put on I don't know, the dumb glasses with the mustache and the funky nose, and they can't see us? That doesn't make any sense, right? So you have to find that line. Also discovering, like, what does the AI system really want, and how does it go about getting it? Like, is it manipulating human beings? And when I say human beings in transhumanism, human being, the word human and being is nebulous, because there's like genetic bodies grown in pods, and your cortical stacks put them in, and you can live in a synthetic body. So I'm just using humanity as an umbrella. But is the AI system just using humanity, or do they have their own agents walking around? Can the AI systems do things like randomly shut people down and knock them out when it wants to? Does it have the ability to perceive the world through the eyes of the people inside the habitat, basically having every single member of humanity walking around as a recording device? Can it do that? Is the AI system able to, and do the people agree to have the AI system alter, like, traffic, oxygen, food, economics? Like, if the AI sends an alert, do the people go, oh, I guess there's a crime. Okay, we'll just stop. We'll stay right here and allow the hunter killers to flow through our city, because we believe that the AI is doing the right thing to go after those individuals. Now, socially, we do have these other problems where the AI could change our society, where we become more controlled socially by the AI than us controlling the AI system itself, the overlord. So an example would be, the overlord predicts where crime is happening and who those criminalized individuals are. Thereby, humanity decides, oh, the AI has picked you as the criminal, therefore I feel you are the criminal, right? As opposed to, much like, let's make an example relating it to today. A disease starts to spread, a pandemic spreads through the population. The AI system mathematically figures out who may or may not have it. The AI picks those individuals out, tags them. Now humanity goes, oh, you people are probably the worst for us and probably will kill us because you're spreading a pandemic. Why don't we throw you in the ovens and kill you, right? Like that may be a thing where people trust the AI to the point it's a big brother, right? Hey, on the other hand, a scary thought would be humanity might be optimized to the point where they themselves become godlike, right? PCs arrive at a habitat and they see Adonises all walking around. An example being the AI picks and chooses your food that you're going to eat. Oh, by the way, we've programmed in time for you to go work out. We also have a regiment of individuals to make you look your best and feel your best. Oh, listen, 17% of the population is like shorter and has traits that we don't want for us. Some of them have bad sight. Some of them have a skin tone that we might not like. Some of them have skin tags that, we really want people with moles or um, a certain eye color? No, the AI is like, I think we should optimize ourselves. And the human population or humanity may go, yeah, I get that. So when the PCs arrive at the habitat, maybe every the shortest person is 6.5 feet tall, and the weakest individual can bench press a motorcycle, and they are not only physically powerful, but they're also brilliant, and so on and so forth. Maybe it is eugenics writ large. Come to find out that they've been dumping their own members of their own society into ovens this entire time, right? To optimize themselves, and due to that optimization, of course, the people that are surviving feel like they belong. This is the way it is because they're the ones alive, right? It's tribalism writ large. My tribe is better than your tribe. You've been selected as the other tribe, so yeah, you're less than human, which is a thing we've cultivated amongst ourselves. Why wouldn't an AI think that? Now, some would claim, much like the classic, well, artificial intelligence would think that we are useless. Maybe not. How many would an AI really be concerned about expending resources if it's optimized? Yes. Otherwise, if an AI is able to, how do I say that? If an AI is able to make a zoo of humanity, right? Hey, you guys stay on Mars. I'm going to go to another distant planet and make my own people. Maybe the AI doesn't really care what like. Why waste the resources to eliminate humans when we just restrict them to this one area and then build ourselves up in another area? So an AI could literally be a god trying to grow or develop their own biological life, or maybe there's no biological life at all. Maybe they've decided, yeah, we're going to just be an artificial world, and they try to then become their own nation. Yeah, yeah. Cameron's like eugenics going wild. Oof. Yeah, why not? Why? Okay, this could be done very above board, right? Like in your face, robot soldiers walking around with guns, blasting people in the face that they don't like, or it could be very subtle. Tribe again, like today, tribalism writ large. By the way, these other people, yeah, they're the bad guys. There was an episode of Black Mirror where they had soldiers that had eye implants, and the soldiers' viewing of the people, turned them into monsters. And AI could just go into your optical nerves and your audio nerves and turn the people that it desires to be less than and makes them look like monsters. Zombies or blood-eating beasts or anything that you maybe it overlays an image of a thing that you hate. You don't like spiders? They have spider-like features. You don't like snakes? They have snake-like features. et cetera, et cetera, right? You don't like fill in racial, religious, political, whatever. That's exactly what they look like. um, uh, would be pretty hilarious if it wasn't so deadly. And so, of course they look like the other. And what happens? We get to blow them away without nary a moral problem at all. And why would an AI system do that? Well, you might suffer some psychological trauma if you actually, I don't know, had empathy for the other people. So if we make them look like monsters, wow, the AI is like, well, don't have to worry about psychologically healing you or causing damage. You just destroyed a monster and go about your business, right? So, eh, yeah, eugenics could be, especially when you have a bounded, sealed location like a habitat, and people who live there that embrace it. Pretty nasty. Now, let's go the opposite direction because we're talking about a lot of the bad things, but we could turn this into a good thing. And what I mean by that is, for example, there could be an AI system, like say in Eclipse phase. Maybe Firewall itself is an AI trying to bring humanity back together and stop crime and stop existential threats like von Neumann nanomachines or an out of control black hole that's been created or antimatter that that goes out of control or some kind of plague or nanotech system or alien invasion. And much like classic Dungeons and Dragons, where you're like a cleric or a warlock, and there's this outside force empowering you to be better than you think you are. Maybe an AI system is like that. Maybe there's an AI system that um, recontextualizes you to maybe predict where you fire your gun, that you actually fire your bullets or blasters or something before the target gets to the location where they get hit, right? Like you blast it towards the corner and all of a sudden the bad guy turns the corner and in an instant the bullet pierces their brain because the AI system gave you predictive technology that allowed you to predict where the next enemy would be. Um, Anybody see the movie Equilibrium, where there's gun fu and they're trained? They've watched millions and millions of gunfights so that you train in a martial arts with handguns. Um, Modified, look like modified Desert Eagles or something, where you fire your weapons at the most logical predicted location your enemy might be, so that instead of aiming at someone, you are aiming at a location and those people happen to be there, right? Makes perfect sense in a gun fu equilibrium sense. Why not have that be a thing where the player characters have access to something like that? Maybe the power of in the Eclipse phase setting, maybe the ability for Firewall to always have the ability to give the Firewall agents what they need when they need it at the time and place that they need it, is because it's such a massively powerful AI that doesn't want to be eliminated, that it really is a law enforcement tool. The I There is this idea of the classic Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern, and much like Equilibrium, much like Minority Report or Terminator and things, it depends on what side of it you rely on, right? Is does the If the player characters are agents of a law enforcing and law abiding AI, then they might be playing in an Eastern world, meaning Eastern story setting, where they are trying to bring law and order to a chaotic world. The solar system and the outer galaxies out of control, and we represent like marshals or space rangers or something, seeking to eliminate the most dangerous threats to our way of life. The opposite of that would be the Terminator idea. Like, instead of the Minority Report idea, it's the Terminator idea, where the AI is such a dominant overlord, predicting everything that everyone does, and capturing people, putting plugs into their brains and putting them into capsules filled with biological fluids to keep them alive. Now you're talking more like Southern storyline where the player characters are trying to instill a chaos. They're trying to break down this overriding rule of law, and the AI system is trying to reinforce it. You know, now the Western is chaos upon chaos, where maybe it's post-apocalyptic, and most of society has broken down, and there are a number of AIs all doing their own individual paperclip optimization, and none of them agreeing with the other ones, and they've already done a World War III nuclear devastation, and the very few AI that are still alive are making these enclaves that the player characters are understand that there's basically nothing but chaos out there, and maybe even with their own AI systems they are able to penetrate these other places, and they're not necessarily bringing law and order. They are mercenaries or agents or criminals or something in a world that's out of control. And again, AI doesn't necessarily need to be all or nothing, and it doesn't even necessarily need to act and or react the same way. For example, an AI system might the population might agree to a social standard that an AI system controls. An example would be there's a movie called Out of Time where the population on their forearm has a countdown to when they die, and the economy is not based around money; it's based around time. An offhanded, snarky comment made in a movie. Mind you, the movie wasn't that good, but the concept is great. And a snarky comment was made by a young person that says, "Hey, buddy, can you spare a minute? Right? Do you have a minute to spare? Because you can transfer some of your time, your life, to someone else. Maybe there's a habitat where people live, and they said, you know what? We're going to live in a world where to be a productive member of the society, literally, you're going to die if you are not productive. And there's only a limited amount of time to spread the entire population. And the least productive people, they're wasting their time. The most productive people are are maximizing their time to allow them to live longer and be more productive. And maybe this is the way the population eugenically is picking out getting rid of the weaker members and enhancing the stronger members. But by that standard, as you start slicing away at the layers of the lower members, that means the higher members are starting to get closer and closer to those lower members, and so that struggle to reach the top like a crab in a barrel. The reason why crabs can't get out of a barrel is because they can't work together. All the crabs are trying to do the same thing on their own to get out, and so of course they never can get out. And this might be how a habitat operates. There may be a okay, Logan's Run is an idea. There's a habitat where the AI system decides when and where someone dies. So instead of you trying to strive for extra time, maybe it goes, you know what? 3 days before your 30th birthday, hope you enjoy it because when you turn 30, you die. And everyone's like, that makes a lot of sense. Population control. And AI decides to randomly eliminate people because we can only have 1,368,758 individuals. And I didn't remember that number. Please don't. I'm not going to remember that and eliminate 5 people off of that list. But when the player characters arrive in the station and there's 3 player characters, maybe the AI system goes, visitors, I'm just alerting you that in 24 hours, we will eliminate 3 individuals off of this habitat. What do you mean eliminate? Oh, we're going to flush 3 people out the airlock. Well, I made the case that you really don't want to dump people out into space because they become kinetic kill weapons. But the case might be that it the people have agreed that our population has a limit, and there have been 12 births. Okay, we're going to have to eliminate 12 people out of here. Are you going to? Is it going to be like the lottery, the short story, the lottery, where everyone picks a straw, and the 12 shortest straws get eliminated? Maybe. You can go with a ton of pseudo political or social or economic standards that in no way, shape, or form could be possible here, but you could turn the volume up to 11 there in a habitat like a on an asteroid or a dome city or a spindle or an O'Neill cylinder or an alien planet or something like that. Like, for example, um, okay, let's go down this rabbit hole. Uh, Capitalism taken to its extreme. So, an example would be you have to pay for your air. You may have to pay for the roads you drive on. Maybe there's like a strange. I don't know how far you could turn this up. Um, you have to pay for the right to breed, even much like the idea of running out of time. Maybe you need to literally you have to pay for your life. Like there are security police services around that if you default on the loan of your life, they just get to kill you. They arrest you and or eliminate you. We've seen this done on the recent show Orville, where there's a population of thumbs up, thumbs down, and that's how society and the law is done. If people don't like you, you get thumbs down. You get too many thumbs down in your behavior, and you get arrested, and you're put on trial to the public. And if they don't like what you did, you get a thumbs down, and they can kill you, including if it's something like I don't know, humping a statue in the local park or not letting a pregnant woman sit down on the bus even though you didn't see her and someone recorded it. Cancel culture written large, right? Um, Heck, might maybe even um, Instagram influencer written large using an AI system that's able to control how many likes, dislikes, followers, messages you get, how many people, the minute you fall off, you're like, I might actually die if people aren't willing to like the things that I do and the obnoxious things that I do, and they find me funny or something like entertainment or whatever. There might even be an AI that has entertainment camps that they send people to, you know, which so on and so forth. So, and like I said, you could take capitalism and how about extreme socialism? Right? You arrive at it's a transhumanist world. You arrive at the habitat, and instead of being able to walk around in your biological or synthetic body that you find your favorite, everyone has the exact same clone body, and they all look just about alike. They all same height, same voice, and everything. And if you want to mingle into this crowd, sorry, we're going to have to put your original body on ice. You're going to have to sleeve into to another body. You're going to have to zip into another body, put that other body on like a jacket, because everybody here is equal. And maybe as you try to acquire wealth, maybe the items you think you own belong there. There is no ownership. Maybe people just randomly walk into your place of business, or you're sleeping your bunk and you wake up and someone walks in and takes your flashlight and walks back out, and they're like, what are you doing? And they're like, I need the flashlight, so whatever. And like, that's my flashlight. And they're like, oh, that's terrible, right? Why not? Everything's shared. Your significant other is shared. Your meals are shared, right? Now, on a good sense, maybe that works perfectly well, right? You're in a tribal society. Everybody shares and shares alike. We all need to survive. In a high tech habitat, maybe that might not work out so well, but an AI could very well control that. You know, um, maybe even maybe even putting a temporary plug into the brain of the more brilliant to bring your intelligence down, giving you like a splitting headache, so that just as you are no smarter than the least smartest person in the habitat itself, right? And of course, since you're in the same biological body, you're physically the same. Your height is the same. Your attractiveness is the same. Your voice intonations are the same. What are some others like really bizarre? Um, and an Ayn Rand, mispronounced that name, type of thing where everyone is completely absorbed in it's all about me, it's never about you. And an AI system actually warns you about having feelings for other people and their desires. Like, oh, well, I let them go first because they only had 3 items and I've got a shopping cart full of stuff. And then the AI system sends something to you like, you're like, hey, get the hell out my way. You can just wait back in line. Well, I gotta go. It's really important. My grandmother's sick and I need medicine. Can I just get these 3 items? F you. My AI system told me to tell you F you. So, hey, message, F you. Right? I'm not saying that would be the case, but it would be kind of cool, right? Um, so AI overlords, yes, we can do the Terminator, massive machines running around, killing, destroying everything. There could be the insidious machines, much like Terminator, where silver machines with guns doesn't work. How about we coat them in human skin to infiltrate, a la Battlestar Galactica, right? Maybe we start to infiltrate them like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I wonder how many other intellectual properties I can snatch from. But anyway, yeah, maybe an AI system sees humanity and wants to recreate humanity in its own image, or recreate humanity in the image of humanity as the AI looks at their as its progenitors and its forefathers, its ancestors, that, you know what, human beings are flawed, but maybe, just maybe, I can make them better. Maybe I can kidnap members of them and make them live longer, become stronger, become more intelligent, a la the Borg, even. Or maybe it's not so much the Borg, but maybe um, a significant other that someone that is sick or they have a bad relationship with all of a sudden comes back, and it's Stepford Wives, where they have a great personality and they seem to be a little bit taller and stronger and healthier. Like, you look different. Yes, I do. Hey, let's rekindle what we had before. They're like, sure. Created by a computer, printed out in a factory somewhere, in some like robo 3D printing factory, trying to print people over and over again, or inserting people as agents to what it perceives to enhance humanity. And mind you, all of this might be in the backdrop of the player characters either needing to go to a specific habitat, knowing that it's really bizarre, or it may be the case that the player characters are trying to stop its spread, or they might even be agents. Like I said, maybe Firewall itself is an AI system that is so advanced that it wants to bring humanity together as law enforcement. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you very much for letting me go on and on. Um, next week, I'm thinking we could talk about like random encounters, have a little bit of an argument there, um, and maybe a whole bunch of other things. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I have to head off to work. By the way, like, share, subscribe, spread the word of the channel. Follow over on Twitch. Drop your comments below. Let everybody know that you yourself are a fan and a active member of RPG with DBJ. So thank you, everybody. Have a great one. I'll see you later. Bye. Thank you very much for watching.